I've been working for several years now, introducing 3D technology to existing companies, and it strikes me that a lot of them, yes, have heard of 3D printing, but they are not working with 3D printing. We've all heard of 3D printed cars. This is the Urbi, and there is already Urbi 2, so this is the Urbi 1. There has been TED Talks about 3D printed planes. Here in Amsterdam, here in the Netherlands, they are working on a 3D printed building. And you should have a look at it. They are very, very good, and it's becoming really a place to look what our future should or could look like. We're working on printed food. And in the University of Utrecht, they have helped a woman replacement of her skull by a printed skull. And in the future, we've been told it will be able to print new livers. But today, and you should look this up at YouTube, Project Daniel, it is possible to print a prosthesis for this guy, and for the first time in 2 years, he was able to feed himself. So a new life for him. The evidence is there. The technology is working. It is ready for action and improving every day. But still, there are a lot of companies not using 3D printing. They've heard about it, but they are not acting. So how come so few companies are working with 3D printing? I think it is a lot like the smartphones that were introduced some 10 years ago. Did you see the disruptive impact up front? Well, the problem is we don't. We will only see the possibilities if we understand what there is to see. So what is 3D printing? Why is it so disruptive? 3D printing is, as you all know, adding layers on layers, printing a three-dimensional object produced from a 3D model. And the process is quite simple. You have an idea, you sketch it, design it on your computer, send it to your printer. It will print layer on layer, and in some time, you are able to get your product out of the printer, and you can work with it immediately. And why is this so disruptive? Let's look at the traditional supply chain and tweak it a little bit. After design, I put in the send to printer process. And there are 5 disruptive elements in this process. First, look at the design. 3D printing is additive manufacturing. It is printing layer on layer, and any form is possible. Only the limitation of your creativity is your problem, probably. Freedom of creation. All forms are possible, so also unique forms, like these lamps that were created by a computer. You can also use the free form to reduce the weight of a boulder that is part of a plane. If there is form freedom, complexity is free. You can design whatever form there is and you can print it. That makes it possible to integrate functions that were separately before. But it is also possible to print something that is to print while assembly is not necessary anymore. The second disruptive element is object independency. The printer will print any design. It only needs instructions, and that is by a standard file that is sent via the internet to the printer. And that gives you the opportunity to print local. From the Netherlands, send your design to Australia and print it there. Or send it to an oil rig. Object independency gives you also the possibility to sell your product before you produce it. And it goes even further. You can only sell the design and send it to the end user, and he will produce it himself. The third disruptive element is that a printer only uses the material that is needed for the product. That not only saves cost, it also is very good for the sustainability of our Earth. And the fourth disruptive element is that new materials are possible. 3D printing gives you the opportunity to mix, for example, rubber with plastics. Then have the possibility to have the best of both products. You, for example, can have an object where on the outside of the object the skin is very fine, and you use rubber there, and it can be very stiff in the product, and you are using plastics there. So new materials are possible with 3D printing. But those four disruptive elements can only work because one thing happened also, and that is that the cost of 3D printing are getting lower. In this, we've learned from Chris Anderson that there are two ways to produce a duck. And as the chart shows, printing one duck will cost in this chart $10. Printing another one also $10, but it's still, as long as you have a series below 700 ducks, use 3D printing, and only more than 700 ducks, you should use mass production. And this lowering of cost is going on and on. If series of one is affordable, then virality is free. It gives you the opportunity to make one ring of a bird, and this bird is designed by Michiel Cornelissen, a Dutch designer, who thought this one up, and he had the 1 in a million birds product. And the first bird he made and the second one will have the same cost, but they are different. They are all one-offs. If virality is free, you can also personalize every product and make it custom fit. So we've seen 5 disruptive elements. Freedom of creation, object independency, only using the material that is necessary. The creation of new materials is possible, and because of the fact that series of one became affordable, printing has become economically viable. With these 5 disruptive elements, you should be able to see the impact and the possibilities of 3D printing. When scanning has become ordinary, when the internet, when designs are freely available on the internet, and when consumers will design and print, and when we are designing on Earth and send our design to Mars to be printed there. Understanding these 5 disruptive elements will make it possible for you to see the impact of 3D printing, and given the fact that you see the possibilities, act on it and start initiating your innovation. Thank you.